Hello, everyone, and we are super excited to bring you the Women in Technology panel discussion at DPS 2021. It's such an honor and pleasure to host not three, four, five, but six women experts from Microsoft Azure Data Product Team. And I think this is, I would, no words to describe, but this is probably one of the highlights of my career that I get this opportunity to host this panel discussion. So thank you so much, Marisa, Nikita, Mara, Lindsay, Anna, Vicky, all of you for coming on board and doing this for Data Platform Virtual Summit 2021. Over to all of you to take this forward. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Amit, for that introduction. Thank you so much for joining the Microsoft Women in Technology panel at Data Platform Summit 2021. I hope you all are enjoying this session so far. I know there are so many of them and so many more to come. And I want to thank you in advance for joining this panel. And thank you again, DPS, for having us. I'm your moderator, Marisa Brazili, with the Database Platform team. And today we have a fantastic group of women joining us with different experiences, backgrounds, and leadership, and hope the insights learned from today can be discussed between you and your colleagues in the workforce. To set the foundation for today's session, questions were submitted in advance to DPS by attendees. If we have some time at the end, we'll try to take those questions that come in. Before I get into questions, let me start with introductions. So my name is Marisa Brazili. I'm with the Database Platform team, and I'm responsible for the adoption of Azure data products through conferences, through events, and social media. And I run a show called Data Exposed along with Anna Hoffman, and we co-produce that show together. That show's all about data. You can find that on our Azure SQL YouTube channel. Just a quick plug for that one. Let's get into further introductions. Hi, Nikita.
Hi, Marisa. Thanks so much for introducing. Hi, everyone. I'm Nikita. Super excited to be with all of you guys today. A little bit about me is I am a PM on the Azure Data team at Microsoft, and I specifically work on SQL machine learning.
Thanks. Hey, Mara.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So I'm Mara Esteio, and I'm currently a program manager in the Database Platform team, where I focus mostly on data replication products such as change data capture, SQL data sync, and others. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mara. Hey, Vicky.
Hi, I'm Vicky Harp. I'm a group PM manager at Microsoft, and I am responsible for the team that handles all of the data platform experiences for the operational databases, particularly SQL Server and Cosmos, etc. So I have been working with SQL for 20 years now, as of this year, and happy to be here.
Wow, awesome. Thanks, Vicky. And we will have a couple other speakers joining us, and I can do introductions too when they come in. Anna Hoffman will be here, and Vicki Allen will be here too. So let's get started. Taking the first question from the audience, what initially got you into tech, and what has helped you get to where you are today? So if there's any education or mentoring or tech skills, what has got you to where you are? Anyone want to start with that one?
I can dig it.
Thanks, Vicky.
So I actually got into tech because of my mother. So whenever I was a kid, my mother ran a computer business. This was in the 1980s in Texas. And so I followed, along with her. I had a computer when I was a kid. I was always in her business at her shop. And so I followed that. And then up through high school, I took computer science classes. I participated in computer science competitions, programming competitions. And then ultimately that led me into university and then off into my career. So it's been kind of a slow drip over, my whole life. And I think it's kind of an example of how those early exposures and getting to be fluent with technology as a child really made a difference to my whole career.
Yeah, no, I've heard that too. And I've heard, I kind of want to pick on Anna for this one just because she was a digi girl and kind of went through that. And do you mind sharing, how you got into tech?
Yeah, sure. So back in high school, I was always like kind of a science math nerd, but one of my friends' dad mentioned, hey, Microsoft is doing like this free camp called DigiGirls during the summer. Do you guys want to go? So we were like, sure, sounds fun. We went to this new city and went to DigiGirls camp. And yeah, through that, I actually learned a lot about technology and saw a lot of women in technology. And that wasn't something that I really had seen, honestly, just being honest. So for me, it was kind of like an eye opener, like, oh, like I could do this. This is an option. And that ultimately led me into the engineering space, not necessarily the tech space. But when it turned out some of the engineering things that I liked, I didn't like as much as I thought I would like, it was like, oh, well, I did see a lot of women in this tech space doing really well. Maybe that's somewhere that I want to get involved. And yeah, lo and behold, I actually ended up getting a job at Microsoft and starting at that same office where I went to camp, 10 years prior. So it was an exciting time. And, I think we all have different avenues into tech, but I do think, and this is kind of unrelated, I do think that's why it's so important that we as women in tech get in front of students these days so that they know that this is a possible career choice for them. But that's kind of a separate topic.
Yeah, we'll get into that too. You're foreshadowing future questions. Nikita, do you want to mention how you got into tech?
Yeah, for sure. So I think for me, it was a combination of factors for how I got into tech. So one of which was I actually grew up in the Bay Area. So whenever I, roamed around or I was, driving to school, I saw all of these big tech companies. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be really cool one day to work at one of them? And then here we are. So that was one thing which got me excited. But then how did I actually start learning about technology, get hands-on with coding? So actually for me in high school, there was a program called Girls Who Code. And I participated in that program. And what it essentially is it's a 10-week like summer immersion camp where they put you in a company and you get to experience the day-to-day life in this cohort of 20 girls in total. So I was surrounded by different females who were interested in learning about, the tech industry, placed at this company, and was able to talk to other, female mentors, both men and women at the company, and learn about what they were doing. And that for me was a little proof of concept point when I said, that sounds really interesting. I think this is for me. I want to pursue it. So then when I went off to college, then I majored in computer science, and then my journey kind of continued from there. I interned with Microsoft, really loved it, and then kind of came back to the tech space. So I would say all of those different things contributed to my journey.
That's awesome. Cool. How about you, Mara?
Yeah, so for me, I think it all started in high school through entrepreneurship, actually, because back in high school, so I grew up in Romania, which is a post-communist country. So I could see a lot of problems in the education system. So I started two startups in education when I was back there. One was a service and the other one was technology focused. And I was like really shocked when I saw like, oh, having this like ed tech tool that could scale at thousands of people versus just having a service that you would like go one-on-one and have social impact on one person at a time. And I was really blown away about like how technology can scale social impact. So that's when I decided like, oh, I have to be in this realm. I have to learn how to build products because that's what I want to do. I want to like see problems, build products that fix them, and ideally reach as many people as possible. So I think it was all in high school. So then I studied the maths and computer science in high school, and then I focused on both business and computer science while I was in college. And then I got to Microsoft. So that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. And hi, Lindsay. Thanks for joining us. We're just starting off this Women in Technology panel, and the first question we got was, what initially got you into tech, and what has helped you to where you got to today? And that could be through mentors or education or anything like that. Do you have anything to add to that?
Sorry, I'm late. I'm trying to wrap up previous meeting. How did I get into tech? I don't know. It's a long time. My God. I've been at Microsoft 26 years and I was industry hire. So I'm not sure how to, I was trained as engineer and I had a job at one of the pharmaceutical company, AstraZeneca, and I was one of the IT manager doing Salesforce automation of all things. We're using mainframe, we're using Unix, HP UX, and Microsoft come in, try to help me build the PC part. We're using everything that time. I don't know if anybody remember these aux scripts connecting mainframe to kind of a PC system, because the PC system doesn't know how to do multitasking. I don't know how many people remember the preemptive multitasking we came up with wasn't the multitasking. So from mainframe and Unix environment come to PC with total confusion. And it's until Microsoft came up with NT. We debugging NT, have my server backend open the entire time, right? And I watched how Microsoft make this work. The people are so just not willing to say, no, this is not going to work. They're going to make it work. Even, words, mainframe, the RISC system, the mainframe system is very different from this PC x86, whatever 32-bit at that time. And it wasn't easy to make everything work. So the group of Microsoft people, they impressed me so much. So I joined Microsoft 26 years ago. Literally, that's how it happened. I said, okay, we're going to join Microsoft. So I joined Microsoft. The rest is history.
Yeah. I feel like that's what everyone's saying. And the rest is history after I joined Microsoft. I actually got into tech a little bit unconventional, I guess. I went to school for advertising and PR. And when I graduated, I wanted to move to London. I had studied abroad there, and I knew I wanted to get back to London. And how was I going to do that? I wanted to go back on my own dime. So I applied to marketing jobs out in London, and there's a company, a data center company. They had data centers in 11 countries, and they were hiring, and they brought me over, and I worked there for about a year, and I kind of learned about data centers and what that's like, and just being, marketing and tech, and I knew like, oh, this industry is always changing, and it's always innovating, it's always coming out with new products, it's always trying to help people. And the fact that there's money in tech really made me want to kind of stay in that career. So, from starting off in that job out of college to now, I've kind of always been involved in marketing for tech. And so not quite the background or software engineer, but kind of like marketing. And now I've just kind of been in that niche. So thanks all for those responses there. Let's go on to the next question here. It says, how can women support other women in their organizations? Anyone want to start off with that one?
Maybe I'll give it a shot, since I don't know if anybody beat my record of 26 years in Microsoft and just been here a long time. So along the way, I found the feedback I got, other female leaders, workers, find most useful for myself, but also for my peers, or share your own experience. Initially, I thought it was just me, early days. And then you find out that there's lots of similarities, and everybody actually experiences similar things. Maybe a little bit different, personal experience, maybe a little different, but by and large are very similar. And just to feel that the community, there's lots of support, feel better, and give you more energy to keep going. So I would say the most important thing is to share your experience.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay.
I'd like to give a thought that I think that this actually applies to women supporting women, and also to other genders supporting women, which would be essentially modeling good behavior. And so at Microsoft, as a manager, we have this concept of model, coach, and care. And when you're modeling your behavior by showing that I, as a manager, I, as a leader, am willing to take time off for my family. I, as a leader, am going to not tolerate interruptions. I'm not going to tolerate behaviors that are not inclusive. If you kind of provide that good model, you help lift up the culture that helps support the women and all of the people in your organization, people who are caretakers of all kinds, people who have all of their intersectional challenges. So it's not just about supporting women, it's about supporting all people. And then in the process of doing so, you are able to help the women. If you are a woman and you do have some of these particular responsibilities or considerations that you think that are shared by others, again, talking about them, being open to them, and being transparent about the way you handle them can help kind of create an atmosphere where it's not a secret and it's not something that you have to hide and figure out on your own.
Yeah, and that ties in, and unless anyone has anything else to add, that ties into another question that was brought up. I find it hard to see a thing called balance. Women are typically seen as caregivers for children or elderly parents. Even without those roles, it can be hard to find work-life balance. Work takes priority and family gets neglected. Do you have any advice on how to set those boundaries? I think for me, I'll just start with this one. I think for me, setting boundaries, and maybe even, I want to say maybe Anna gave me this advice, is Outlook has something that lets you block hours, your working hours. So if you're 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or 7 to 4, whatever it is, use them. Use that. Your time is precious, and if people want to get a hold of you, they should schedule between those hours. Like, you're there for 8 hours, like, figure it out, kind of thing. So for me, I'm trying to do better at just if people schedule things where I'm not available, just tell them, hey, can we schedule, I work from this hour to this hour. Just respect your time, and they'll respect you. Like, that's kind of how I'm working on my work-life balance. Does anyone have anything else to add?
Yeah, I can jump in. I think, as you mentioned, setting boundaries is really, really important. Nobody's going to do that for you. So you really have to take charge in this area and say, you know what, if I need to close my laptop at 6 p.m., I'm going to close it at that time. And then, everyone will kind of know about that. You need to take charge in that specific area and kind of create that specific boundary as well. And I think this is especially important in the time that we're in right now, right? With remote work and, as hybrid comes in, you need to be even more conscious, right? Like, am I taking a lunch break? Because it's so easy to just always be near your laptop. So I would say it's really about putting a system in place that works for you. And this can look different from one individual to another. So it's really about finding, what works best in your particular case.
Do you have a system that works for you?
Do I have a system that works for me? I start, at like 8:30, I'll go through my emails for 30 minutes and then I'll start my meetings at 9 and then end kind of around 5. But I'll say I also run into kind of the issue of it's so easy. I got an email at 7 p.m. Let me just quickly kind of go to it. So it's an area that I'm definitely working on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Or it's the, make yourself get up and go to your kitchen to get lunch and not bring it back to your desk, or, just being more intentional, I think, about your time. When you drink more water, so you're getting up, choose about something that makes you get up out of your seat, away from your desk, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's just being more intentional too.
Yeah, I mean, personally, just being honest, I struggle with it. I can work 7 to 6, no problem. And sometimes I get an email on the weekend and I want to look at it. And so I don't think any of us are perfect about it, but we're trying to find that balance. And I personally, I don't have children at this point, so I think it's a lot easier maybe in many ways for me. So, maybe other people have more insight on how you balance the other people in your life.
I think probably getting a dog for you kind of helps a little bit with that, right? So now you actually have to walk your dog and feed your dog,
Yeah.
and so that probably helps you a little bit during. I know you got Anna's dog.
I mean, a dog is a lot less effort than a human being, probably,
Yeah.
but it has, like the dog has to go out. So like I have to leave the computer. So like I would say the dog has been good for me at least. But yeah, I know children are more effort than that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I know this is a kind of a hot topic. I would say myself, still work in progress. It's just difficult, right? Early days, I used to take my baby to Microsoft. Used to have these mandatory conferences. I was taking my infant to conferences because there's no other option. I will have a nanny there, and then I take my baby to customer visits because I can't leave the baby behind. It's too little, and then you can see, then I feel guilty. I have baby with me. Then I work extra long hours. Then I feel guilty all day long for the work, the family, everything. Of course, now my daughter is in college. It's easier. I have a puppy now. Replaced my daughter with a puppy, and it's a lot easier for sure. But it's still, hard to ignore the puppy sometimes. It's work in progress. It's just like Marisa said, the intention is most important thing. Intentionally set a boundary, give yourself a break, then it'll be better than just keep at it, right? Eventually, you just can't do it anymore, burn out, yeah. I did along my career, I did witness lots of people just burn out, right? It's so most important thing, intentionally try to set boundaries. Even may not be perfect, yeah.
For me, I've sort of stopped using the term work-life balance. I like harmony, work-life harmony, in that what needs the most time and what needs the most attention shifts around, and it has to do with what is filling your own personal cup. So if work is highly fulfilling and exciting to you and you want to do more of it because it's lifting you up, then there's nothing innately wrong with that. And in the same way, if your family life and your responsibilities are something that's deeply important to you and moving, then there's nothing wrong with putting that first. And one of the things that often gets left out of this is we're talking about the conflict between two jobs, essentially, when we're talking about caretaker responsibilities and your paid work responsibilities. But there's also the responsibility and accountability you have to yourself for your own wellness. And so I think that one of the things that I try to do, and again, it's a work in progress, like everyone has said here, is to think about how to, put your own mask on before helping others, as they say on the airlines. What can you do to make yourself stronger, healthier, happier, more relaxed? And then all of the rest of it, all of the harmony from that has to flow out of it. That gives you the ability to set the boundaries that you couldn't set if you were feeling back on your heels and stressed. And you have to set those boundaries with your family as well. You have to set those boundaries and in some cases find help and ask for help, both in work and in your home life. And so I think part of it is kind of finding what's the trick of your own brain that helps you to balance those things and not get burned out. Because burnout, I think, is often misunderstood. Sometimes it can be about people asking too much of you for too long. But I think in other ways, it can also be about you overcommitting to something yourself, like no one is asking. People can burn out because they chose to enjoy one thing to the exclusion of their own health for too long.
Yeah, no, I think those are all good points. And I think too, like we all mentioned, it is a work in progress. It is something to be intentional about and to just think about and what works for you. Another question I have that came in: female leadership is not acceptable in many organizations. How can I show my company that having a woman in management role is good for our company? Wow. Okay. So I know we have a couple managers on this call, so not to pick on them, but anything you have to add to this question?
I think that's quite a strong statement. I actually haven't seen it. I have to put this way. What it might be sometimes is the opportunities, right? The new leadership opportunity coming, does we should ask the question, is women being given the same chance, right? If you throw your head in the ring, and do you get the same chance? All that sort of thing. I haven't seen some company literally says, no, women leadership is not acceptable. I haven't seen that. I think it's a lot more is being, are women at the table in the org being given the same chance to, like a risk it, right? To have a leadership position. That'll be my experience, yeah.
Yeah, similar to what Lindsay was saying, I've never heard of companies or tech organizations explicitly say, oh, women leadership is not acceptable. However, as you look around you in the tech industry, you mostly see men, you mostly see systems created by men that work better for men. So it's very easy to get to the assumption that women leadership might not be welcome or might not be sought after. But I think it's very important to not get to that assumption, and even better to not believe that assumption yourself, because that's when you limit yourself, and that's when you say, I don't have a chance at leadership here, I have to find somewhere else. So I think being aware of that and like not letting what you see around you limit yourself is very important. And don't just look around you and see, okay, this is what it is. Just think, what can it be? So let's move and go after that. If I want to be a woman leader in tech, let me behave like one, and my organization will see the benefits of that and they will embrace it. So just go for it, and don't let yourself be limited by what you see in your organization. That's what I would say.
I would bounce off of that a little bit, though, to say that the concept that someone will notice and reward and give leadership positions to women is not always the case. Sometimes what happens is that women are expected to do the work without the authority. They're willing, if the women are willing to go step up and put in the extra effort without having been given the promotion, the title, the pay, the authority, the seniority, then an organization isn't motivated to give them those things. They can get it without. And so if you see that you are becoming a leader, then there's no reason to be shy about it. You can be somewhat mercenary about it and say, I feel that I'm ready for the next level. And you can try to push yourself into that. I actually have worked with organizations that were a little bit more explicit in what they believed the proper career path was for women. These were organizations that I worked with that were international in basis, and with those more explicit or highly implicit policies, the trick is partly that the people who are making those policies have to have their hearts and minds changed, and some of those people are affected by data, by the information that companies that have a more diverse team of managers and leaders of all kinds tend to be more valuable in the market. They tend to create more customer value. They tend to create more monetary value. There's also data around worker satisfaction and the ability to attract and retain talent. But it can be a hard thing. And so if you're in that situation, I think finding a mentor and finding someone that can coach you through it and help you find the sort of strategies that might help you is probably the most direct advice that I'd give.
Yeah, just to jump in, I don't think any organization explicitly says like female leadership is not allowed. So just kind of to chime in with what everyone's saying, I don't think that's the case. What is the case, as Mara was mentioning, is yes, this is a male-dominated industry. And as Vicky pointed out, I think a really good thing that you can do is if you see someone who is a female leader in your organization, Maybe there are a few of them, right? Maybe they're just one or two, but find that person, get coffee with them, talk to them. How did you do it? Learn from them. They can be your mentor and really guide you through that process. So I would say you have to be intentional about, your progression to leadership. It may not be handed to you. As Vicki was again mentioning, you need to kind of go about creating that ladder, those steps for you to reach that place that you want to go. And you will get there. So I think one really good thing you can do is identify those people who have done it and can also guide you.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like, self-advocating is probably key here too. Okay, moving on here. Restarting my career after a break has been a nightmare for me. Do you have any advice on getting back into the workforce after taking a break or transition? Has anyone taken a break or transition that could answer this?
So I've taken a transition in career and I've taken maternity leave. These weren't extremely long breaks, but I think part of it is returning from a break. It's kind of a question of, are you returning? Are you going back to something you were doing before that filled your cup before and now it doesn't? It could be that whatever was happening that caused you to take that break has changed your priorities. And so identifying what is it that's difficult and what can you change about it. So for example, I'll take the case of maternity leave. Before I had my child, my working hours and my accountabilities within my family were very different. And once I returned to work, I did have a period where I felt that I couldn't keep up in the same way that I did before. Because before I was relying on this kind of available overrun of time that I could say, if I get distracted by something, if I haven't thought about it deeply, I could always just work a little bit later. And I had to change up my way of working to account for my new priority, which was to be more intentional with my time. And so I had to start being more intentional about what I chose to accept as work. And I had to stop being the person who would always say yes and accommodate everyone. Had to be more about, no, this is what I can do for you. And if you want me to do that other thing, then I'm going to stop doing this other thing, and trading them off, and that was something that had not come naturally and had not been necessary for me before. And I think that it's also possible that you return from something and find that the work is not satisfying. Maybe you're not even cut out for that industry anymore. And, recognizing that and embracing that is all right. But yeah, for me, it was more about identifying that my old habits were not aligned to my new life.
So only break I took is maternity leave as well. After I think I took 4 months or something, and that's before Microsoft. All the industry have the long maternity leave, and I went back to my old job. The challenge is my job was traveling very intensively. I think I mentioned that I take my infant travel with me to customer visit. So one condition is that the customer need to have on-site daycare. Like I found out Nike have on-site daycare, so I worked at Nike for a while. And lots of these, then I realized that is not very, it's just not working out, very difficult. Once I took my baby to New York and I left with a relative on the outside of the downtown, the customer is in downtown New York, tried to get on the train at 5 p.m. It's not the train, as you cannot get taxi from like downtown to Penn Station. It's like an impossible thing. So now I learned that this is just not doable. I said I'll find a job, doesn't need to travel so much. Had an extensive conversation with my leadership. They will say if we can bring your travel down to half, to a quarter, whatever, then you will realize then it's not really fair to your peers, right? Everybody's on the road, then you're not because you get a baby. So actually turned out to be a really good thing. I moved to engineering. Worked out really well. Yeah. So it could be all positive, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to respond to that, Lindsay, and tie it back to even the previous thing, which is that what we refer to as a ladder into leadership is actually just a series of choices that made sense at the time. And it can be something like what feels like stepping away because you need to make a change because you have a baby can actually, in looking back, be a step up on a ladder. But at the time, it was just a change, right? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, Lindsay, but that's kind of my thought on whenever I can hear that.
Oh, that essentially is. I remember I have to pay somebody pedal the not bicycle, somebody delivering thing, have this bicycle with something dragging behind him. You finish delivery because I can't get a cab. I said, I need to get to my baby. I paid, I don't know, paid guys how much. Pedaling through Times Square, get to Penn Station. That's the moment I said, that's it. I cannot travel with a baby. Change a job.
Okay, thanks all. Let's move on to this one that came in. I have to be quite aggressive for my voice to be heard. Any advice on how to get my opinion across without having to come off as aggressive?
I can add something. I think sometimes when women speak up, they are seen as aggressive, while when men speak up, they are seen as assertive. And I think it's very easy to fall prey to this bias. And there might be even some bias in this question itself, because like you should never see yourself as aggressive just because you speak up, right? Just because you have something to say and you say it. So I think the first advice I would give is just say whatever you say, make sure your voice gets heard. Like, of course, like don't do crazy things, but don't see yourself as aggressive. Rather see yourself as assertive and as a leader. So yeah, I just think we should be aware of that bias and don't let that influence us. Because I've also done that before, and I was like, oh, I might be aggressive, but yeah. And be self-aware, of course.
Yeah, imagine if you called it, you're being bright, you're being sparkling. If you came up with a different term for it. And I'll just share one silly practical thing, and I don't know if anybody else does this, but like if I'm going into something that I need to get ready, I kind of have to put on the armor, I have to gird up for it. There are certain things that I do. Like if I'm going to speak at a conference or something like that where I need to project and I need to make myself known, I actually stretch my body out. I make myself bigger. I try to take space. I've literally gone into the restroom at work before a big presentation and stretched out really big and kind of feel yourself and like get in tune with your own vibrations in a way to be able to feel like you're being fully yourself, not that you're being aggressive. And ideally, other people are going to make way, but that's not the question. It's about what can I do, and what you can do isn't necessarily to change the way that others behave. So what you have to do is to have confidence in yourself.
I think also something that's helped me, maybe this isn't exactly fixing the problem, but just a way that I've dealt with it, is finding people who feel the same way. Like a lot of times if I'm going to be assertive about something or stand up about something, there's probably someone else who also feels that way. So sometimes I'll go back channels and figure out, talk to people. Oh, do you feel kind of this way? Now, of course, this depends on the scenario and the situation, but that way you can kind of, one, you feel more confident when you do bring it up, and two, you have support when you bring it up. So that's something that has helped me and actually worked pretty well, because then it's almost like planned. I say something and then someone else backs me up or whatever. So that's just one tool I've used.
Yeah, I agree with all that saying. Even I don't really prepare. I think speak up. Number one thing, speak up, and actually you should have confidence. Your opinion will be valued. People actually want to hear it. Initially, I probably like lots of you, right? And not sure if what I got to say mean anything to anyone. I guess I was pretty lucky. I speak up a couple of times because I feel like I have to, and because things are not actually being considered in the right direction, then I actually have people in the meeting, right? Quite a few times will come to me, says, you should always speak up. We actually want to hear what you got to say. What you get to say are different. Generally, I think like women, we're not the type who would just regurgitate what somebody else already said, right? And not for sake of saying something. So if you have opinion, just don't be afraid, just speak up. People do want to hear it. Agree or not, people want to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, and just jumping in, I also think it, matters, how do you define the word aggressive? For different people, it can mean different things. So in this particular case, if you have an opinion that you need to get out there, that's just you sharing some feedback or something that you want to speak up about. That might not even be aggressive in that specific case. So I think, as Lindsay mentioned, you need to speak up. If there's something that you need to say, nobody's going to know unless you tell them, right? So that's the very first step, getting that confidence, being able to clearly communicate whatever it is that's, top of mind. If you have a burning question, you need to get it out there. Otherwise, probably you're not even going to be able to focus on the work that you're at, what's at hand, right? So don't be afraid to say what's needed to be said. And obviously, find a system that works for you, like your own approach for it. If it's, you need to go big, like kind of Vicky mentioned, go ahead, do that. Find what works for you, do that, and then don't be afraid to have your voice be heard. That's definitely one of the most important steps.
Great, I think those are really great tips. I want to get promoted within my organization. Do you have any advice on how I can stand out at my company?
So I think, go ahead, Lindsay.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, as somebody who does write promotion justifications, some of it is really understanding what is the purpose of promotion. So what is your own purpose and what is the organization's purpose? And you have to be able to play with it from both sides. So if I think about an individual who wants to be promoted because they feel like they have been doing good work for a long time, then it's like, well, is that really a promotion? Is that really a change? Or is it that you see that there is a scope of work that you have either very recently taken on or are about to take on that changes the nature of your job? And so watching for those types of opportunities and calling attention to them and advocating for yourself is one way to go through kind of a promotion cycle if you're not in a company that has like regular, we're going to review this type rhythms. And you can miss that opportunity. I certainly feel like there were times in my career where I happened to notice, oh, by the way, I became the lead engineer on this 6 months ago and I didn't do anything about it. And now that I go and ask about it, they'll be like, okay, well, we'll change your title. But there wasn't any promotion. There wasn't any forward momentum for me. And that made me realize that what I was looking for was a me-centered thing. And I was wanting to see my career progress. For my manager, they were thinking more from the business perspective to say, all right, if this person leaves, what is the position that I would then be filling? And so if, for example, if I went to them and said, hey, I'm actually the lead developer now. And so if I were to leave, and right now you only have me listed as a senior developer, you wouldn't be able to hire another lead level developer because the person who left was a senior level developer. And so that has a very different weight with some people, kind of looking at the business impact of the role independent of the person who's filling it. So in terms of how to stand out, it really is about getting those larger areas of impact, either direct work that you're doing that is more impactful by saying no to work that isn't impactful and only saying yes to other work that is impactful, to finding ways to delegate work, which lifts up others. So you take work that is maybe less impactful to you, but more impactful to someone who's more junior, and then you give it to them. And then by doing that, you have then increased your impact. You are helping someone else, lifting them up, and you're lifting yourself up at the same time. So you're kind of showing leadership. And all of that needs to be underpinned by you documenting and self-promoting on those things to the people or the person who is responsible for making those decisions. Because if you just do it quietly and wait for the tiara to fall from the sky onto your head, that doesn't work. And that's really not the way that promotions work.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, I've been in roles where I, advocate for myself and I show this is what I've done, this is what I've documented, and I've gone up, to ask for promotion. And they said, no, we can't do that this time. Well, you know what? Like, now I know where I stand and I know, the value you see in me, and it's up to me now to make a decision on, what I want to do from there. If I want to stay there, move to another organization, whatever. But at least you don't know unless you ask, and you can go for it and try. And, if you get that no, then you know where you stand. Like, make your own decisions from that point.
Yeah, it's well said, right? Agree. And with all of Vicky's point and Marisa, what you called out, only one thing I kind of want to tease out one important point. Like, I like to keep things simple. Promotion is business decision. It's not a reward of your good work. So that's very critical to remember. Promotion is a business decision, either filling a vacant senior role or the business grow, need a more senior leader. And think about one way to achieve that is to create a business impact to grow the business, and naturally you will have been promoted, right? So.
Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up here on our questions. This one, I think this was, a good one to end on too. What advice would you give younger women who are just entering the tech industry or the software industry? I know this kind of got everyone stumped.
So I think it's almost the same advice I give to anyone who's entering the industry, whether they're no matter their gender, which is to understand the temporary nature of everything. That when you enter the tech industry, the manager you have now, the peers you have now, the job you have now, is all it's all going to change. The languages that I was coding in at the beginning of my career are not in use anymore. I don't even know where that manager is or what they're doing. I'm multiple companies away from it. And so you can either be the victim of those changes or the source of those changes. And if you can go into your career understanding that you're the one who needs to advocate for it and you're the one who can make those changes, you're going to come out happier, more complete, more settled than if you go in and allow others to make those changes for you.
Yeah, just to jump in, I think one, advice that I'd give to kind of people who are just entering is you're going to come in thinking, I know ABC. And what you're going to end up finding is, hey, here's XYZ, things you have not heard about. It's going to be a lot of new information thrown at you. So the tools which you learned earlier, you're going to use those, but you also need to you're going to learn a new set of skills as well. So it's about adapting. It's about having, the growth mindset that they talk about at Microsoft, that even if I don't know this today, I know that I can learn it and be ready tomorrow. So just know that as long as you're willing to learn, people are there to help you and kind of help you grow those skills to really, really excel in the area that you're given.
Great point. So everything will change, constantly change. Adaptability and the willingness to learn and learn from your peers, even from somebody just start. You should be able to learn from everybody, but the learning is constant and you need to adapt to change.
Yeah, and along the same lines, I see many people who say, oh, I don't have a computer science major, so I'm not going to go into a tech company because I'll be lost. Don't let that thinking limit you, I would say. There are so many backgrounds in the tech industry. Also, Maria was mentioning about her diverse background. Also, I didn't have a computer science major back in college. So I think there are so many backgrounds. Of course, it's great to be technical and you must understand technology, but don't think that unless you have a CS background, you can't make it. So that's one thing that I would add up to it. Yeah.
I don't know if this is advice or just an observation, but I think when I first entered Microsoft in the tech industry, I was just so intimidated. Like there were so many people who, especially in the SQL world, like there's so many people that have been doing this for like 30 years or 20 years. And who am I to come in and do anything? Even, I didn't study databases in college or anything like that. So I think it's very intimidating, but some interesting perspective I gained recently was a few folks on the other side, maybe they're nearing retirement or whatever, had come to me and said, I'm really intimidated by new folks like you who come in with this fresh perspective and this great burning desire to learn. So I guess, it's more of an observation, but like, just use that. Like you have this fire, you have this excitement. A lot of us, at least myself, like I felt like I had something to prove. So like use that energy to go out and make a difference and don't be so intimidated. That's what I would tell my starting self 5 years ago at Microsoft.
Yeah, any other final thoughts on that? Great, yeah, and I would piggyback off what everyone's saying too is, yes, don't be intimidated, stand up for yourself. Things are always changing, adaptability, that's great. That's a great quality to have going into a company. I know that's something that I was interested in a tech company is things are changing and that's like a good thing. Like I want to be constantly learning new things. I don't want to be stagnant in my role. So that's kind of what drew me to this tech industry too. So that kind of does it for us on time and the questions that came in. I want to thank all of our panelists here, Nikita, Mara, Anna, Vicki, Lindsay. Thank you so much for being a part of this on behalf of Microsoft. And thank you again to DPS for having us. Enjoy the rest of your sessions. Thanks all.